Public Policy in Education, Module 6. This PowerPoint is designed to highlight certain points in the chapter and serve as a guide to important understandings from the chapter. However, this PowerPoint will not provide every piece of information you need to know in order to successfully complete this course and internalize your learning. The expectation is that you will read the chapters assigned, use this PowerPoint as a guide to help you as you preview, then read the chapters. Love again. Romans 13:8 says, "Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another, for whoever loves others has fulfilled the law." Pay your bills, pay your taxes, etc. But more than even that, we are called to love others. Not just when it is convenient, not just when we feel like it, not just when they are easy to love. Prayer. Lord, help us to understand that we owe love to one another because you first loved us. Policy formulation, adoption, and policy instruments. Policy formulation and policy adoption are the very visible stages of the policy process. In Module 5, we read about the two stages that many people do not even know about: issue definition and agenda setting. Three things happen in the formulation and adoption stages. The policy is put into written language. The legislature or school board funds or doesn't the policy. The policy is formally adopted. These are places where policy is formulated and adopted: legislatures, administrative agencies, and courts. Policy formulation and adoption in legislatures. The next few slides will contain more information about each of these topics: a conservative process, legislative proposals, how bills are drafted, how bills move through the legislature, the politics of getting a policy adopted, and obtaining funding. In a previous module, we discovered the meaning of conservative in the ideological sense. However, in this case, the word conservative has a different meaning. Legislatures have a conservative process for policy formulation and adoption, meaning that the process is deliberately constructed to make passing laws difficult. Before policy ideas can become official policy, they go through different stages. Policy ideas become legislative proposals, which can become bills, which may become statutes, which then becomes official policy. A legislative proposal is a recommendation for a policy change. It is the first step in policy formulation. Legislative proposals are usually in written form and can come from legislators, the governor, administrative agencies, and interest groups. However, only legislators can introduce bills. The legislative proposal may then become a bill, which is a potential law. There are 5 parts to a bill: title, text, definitions of key terms, effective date, and a list of portions of the existing legal code that may be affected by the proposed law. How do bills move through the legislature? The bill must be sponsored by someone in the House in which it is introduced. It then moves to a committee and is assigned to a standing committee. At that point, it is moved on to Rules Committee or voted down. If it moves on, the Rules Committee sends it to the House to be debated and/or possibly amended. If the bill is passed by the entire House, then 4 things can happen. 1. If an identical companion bill from the other house is passed, the bill moves to the chief executive and is either signed or vetoed. 2. If there is a different companion bill from the other house, the differences must be worked out. 3. If the differences are significant, the bill may go to a conference committee. 4. If there is no companion bill, the bill is sent to the other house for the entire process to be completed again. The final step is for the bill to go to the chief executive, who either signs or vetoes. There are politics in getting a bill passed. There can be changes to the bill. There must be someone to sponsor the bill, and the bill must go through committees. All of these things involve policy actors who can either support the bill or cause it to fail. You can read more about this in Chapter 8. Bills must be funded, which is a separate process. Unfunded mandates are those bills that pass but are not funded. We see that quite often in education. Funding happens through the budget process, which is something that happens during the legislative session where bills are being formulated and passed. After a law is passed, administrative agencies pass rules, regulations, and policy guidelines. These help to clarify the new law and specify how it will be implemented. The Texas Education Agency is an administrative agency that works on education laws. Courts produce case law. They can declare laws unconstitutional, and they also interpret the laws and the Constitution. For example, courts have upheld the use of tax dollars to support public schools, upheld compulsory attendance laws, and have declared school finance systems inequitable. School leaders must know the process and follow government activity. They must work with others to set priorities. Leaders need to know the government officials who impact their organization and/or district. Leaders also need to belong to professional organizations and keep in contact with government officials. Education leaders must know how to analyze policies because they will develop policies and will also implement policies developed by others. Lowy's theory is that there are three basic policy types: distributive, regulatory, and redistributive. These are defined in your text. School leadership can use Lowy's techniques to analyze whether the policy is distributive, regulatory, or redistributive, and to develop strategies to influence policies. McDonnell and Elmore's policy instruments include 1. Mandates. Lewis, 2006, found that Texas uses these heavily. 2. Inducements. 3. Capacity building. 4. System change. And 5. Hortatory policy. The most popular policy instrument in schools and school systems is the mandate. Cost analysis and cost effectiveness analysis. Levin and McEwan, 2001, developed the ingredients method, which includes 5 cost categories: personnel, facilities, equipment and materials, client inputs, and miscellaneous inputs. See Table 9.3 for an example. Levin and McEwan have several steps in conducting a cost-effectiveness analysis. This can be used to determine whether the policy is leading to the intended outcomes. These are listed and defined in your text. Think about it. How involved are you in knowing who represents you and your organization in the legislature or local government? How could knowing those policy actors affect you and/or your organization?